Imagine coming home to find 3 people murdered in your living room, and in the next room, your children are still asleep, untouched, unaware, and somewhere out there, one more child is missing and no one knows if she's alive. This is the story of Cabin 28, April 1981, a quiet mountain community called Keddie, tucked into the Sierra Nevada in Plumas County, California. It was the kind of place people moved to for peace. Pine trees, a small resort, neighbors who knew each other by name. Glenna Sue Sharp lived there with her 5 children in a modest rented cabin numbered 28. She was a single mother, recently divorced from an abusive husband, doing her best to raise her family in a town that felt safe. Her oldest son had a close friend who often stayed over. Her younger children slept down the hall. It was an ordinary life in an ordinary cabin in a town where nothing bad was supposed to happen. On the night of April 11th, 14-year-old Sheila Sharp was at a sleepover next door. Her 15-year-old brother John and his friend Dana had gone into the nearby town of Quincy and caught a ride home late that night. Their mother Sue was home with the rest of the children. When Sheila walked back into Cabin 28 early the next morning, she stepped into a scene that would haunt investigators for over 4 decades. Inside the front room, 3 people were dead. Her mother Sue, her brother John, and John's friend Dana. They had been beaten and restrained with tape and electrical cord. Some of it looped so tightly around the furniture that investigators believed the killer, or killers, had taken their time. This wasn't panic, this was control. And here's the detail that still unsettles people today. Down the hall, separated by nothing more than a wall and a closed door, Sue's 2 youngest sons and a neighbor boy who'd stayed the night were asleep. They didn't wake up. They didn't hear a struggle loud enough to save the people in the next room. Whoever did this was either terrifyingly quiet or terrifyingly patient. But the crime scene held something even more disturbing. One child was missing entirely. 12-year-old Tina, Sue's youngest daughter, was gone. Not dead in the cabin, not accounted for, simply gone. No one could say whether she had witnessed the murders and run, whether she had been taken, or whether she had somehow slept through it all and wandered off in shock. Investigators arrived to a scene that made no sense. The murder weapon appeared to be a claw hammer and possibly a knife, both left behind, which raised an immediate question. Why would a killer leave the weapons at the scene? Was it a mistake? Or did they not care if they were found? Then came a detail that deepened the mystery instead of solving it. According to some accounts of the case, a bloody piece of paper was found nearby with numbers written on it speculated by some to be a phone number, though this detail has never been officially confirmed and remains disputed among researchers who've studied the case. Even that uncertainty became part of the mystery, because no one could say for sure what it meant or whether it meant anything at all. Robbery didn't fit either. Nothing of obvious value seemed to be the focus. This didn't look like a crime about money. It looked personal. Investigators began building a list of suspects almost immediately because in a town this small, everyone had a theory about who could have done it. One name surfaced early, Marty Smartt, a neighbor who lived just a short distance away in another cabin at the resort. His stepson had been one of the boys who slept through the murders in the next room. Smartt had a documented history of violence and instability, and investigators questioned him early on. He became a person of interest almost immediately, and over the decades, many true crime researchers considered him a leading suspect. But here's where the case truly falls apart. There was never enough physical evidence to charge him or anyone else. Fingerprint technology in 1981 was limited. DNA analysis, as we understand it today, didn't exist yet. Investigators had a bloody scene, a missing child, and a mountain of local rumors, but nothing that could survive in a courtroom. Then, the case took a turn that no one saw coming. Nearly 3 years later, in April 1984, a man collecting recyclables in Butte County stumbled onto a skull, along with a child's clothing and blanket, more than 60 miles from Keddie. Dental records confirmed what the community had feared. It was Tina. Her disappearance was no longer a missing persons case. It was a second crime, tied to the first, and it meant that whoever killed the 3 victims in Cabin 28 either took a 12-year-old girl with them that night, or she encountered them afterward and never made it home. For years, the trail went cold. Cabin 28 itself became infamous, a place tourists and thrill-seekers sought out, until it was eventually torn down in 2004, some said out of respect for the victims, others said because the property had become impossible to sell. But the case wasn't finished. In 2016, investigators recovered a hammer from a pond near the resort, believed to be one of the murder weapons. And using forensic technology that didn't exist in 1981, they extracted DNA from tape found at the crime scene. Investigators later said that DNA evidence pointed them toward a suspect. For many who had followed the case for decades, it felt like an answer was finally within reach. Except it wasn't that simple. Martin Smartt had died back in 2000, years before this new evidence surfaced. So he was never formally charged with anything. Investigators have said the physical evidence strengthens the case against him, but law enforcement has never released a full, conclusive account tying every piece of evidence together, beyond dispute. Officially, the case remains open. Unofficially, investigators have suggested for years that they believe they know who did it, they just may never be able to prove it in a courtroom. What makes this case linger decades later isn't just the brutality of it, it's the unanswered questions layered on top of each other. Why did the children down the hall sleep through it? What did that bloody note really mean, if anything? Where was Tina between the night of the murders and the moment her remains were found 3 years later, more than 60 miles away? And if Martin Smartt really was responsible, did he act alone, or was someone else in that room? No confession ever came. No trial ever happened. The people who knew the most, the victims themselves, never got the chance to tell us what they saw. So we're left with what's always been left, a small mountain town, a cabin that no longer exists, and a case where science, decades later, pointed toward an answer without ever fully closing the door. If you were in that hallway that night, what do you think let you sleep through it?